Now, finally, we are at the human ear. Okay, so when we're talking about the ear, guys, we're just talking about the normal ear, the one that you know of, the one that you use to hear some sound. Okay, so basically, the ear is made up of three main sections. All right, so basically, you might think, the ear, it is what you are seeing outside. You might think, man, the ear, it is this flappy thing that you see next to your head. But in actual fact, the ear is way more big, or it is divided into three main sections, right? And then the ear, we can say that those sections are named as the outer ear, the middle ear, as well as the inner ear. So basically, when you see this section, or when you see the outer part of the ear, whenever you touch your ear, you will feel like it is the entire ear, but it actually goes inside deep until it reaches the brain. So we have got an inner part, an outer part, as well as a middle part of the ear. All right. So basically, let's just look at the basic functioning of the ear first before we kind of get deep into labeling each and every part. All right. So how does the ear function in basic terms? Let's just get the idea of how the ear basically functions. So first of all, sound waves must enter the outer ear. That is the first thing. Sound waves must enter the outer ear. So it means that sound waves, or the waves that are coming from your mouth whenever you're making a sound, or maybe a speaker around, or maybe any other source of sound. But basically, anything that is able to produce some sound waves, it must be able to enter into the outer ear. So basically, the sound waves, or the sound that is coming from my mouth right now, it is entering into your outer ear. And then these sound waves, what must they cause? They must cause vibrations. So they must cause vibrations in the what? In the middle ear, right? And then those vibrations that are happening in the middle ear, they must cause what we call pressure waves in the inner ear. So this is kind of telling you a summary of how the ear functions. We are still going to look at the specific details on how each and every one of these functions happens. But the basic idea of the ear is just that the sound waves, they enter through your outer ear. All right, they enter your outer ear, and then we create things known as vibrations, or we have got things that are vibrating in the middle ear. And then now we have got these things known as pressure waves that are found in the inner ear. And there you go. You end up being able to hear people speak. You end up being able to hear sound and perceive it just simply because of these three things. But now we're going to look at the details on how each and everything happens. Let us start with the outer ear and try to label the parts that are responsible for allowing the sound waves to enter the outer ear. Because we said the sound waves must enter through the outer ear. So we need to know which are the parts that are responsible for allowing sound waves to enter into your ear. All right. So first of all, we are going to start with the part whereby sound waves are entering into your ear. So we are basically going to tackle the first part here. Sound waves entering into your outer ear. So the outer ear, it is made up of three main parts. All right. So we have got this part known as the pinna. We have got a part known as the auditory canal, as well as a part known as the tympanic membrane. So we're going to explain each and every part and what they do singularly. All right. So the first one, it is the pinna. So the pinna, it is the outer part of the ear. This outer part of the outer ear, this one that looks like a flap-like structure. So basically, this is what you call the ear, actually. Like when you touch your ear right now, you are touching the pinna. That organ that you are touching, you call it a what? A pinna. So this is the proper life sciences term of calling it. You call it a pinna. So the pinna has got a certain function. What is the function of the pinna? The pinna is basically a flap-like structure. When you say that it is a flap-like structure, it simply means that it is flappy, like it is flappy and flexible, just like a paper. If you touch your ear right now, you're going to feel that it has got some smoothness, and it is able to just easily pinch. That is why whenever you are naughty as a child, they will pinch your ear. They are actually pinching your pinna. We call it pinna in life sciences. So that flap-like structure, its whole purpose or its whole function, it is to trap Number one, it is to trap as well as direct sound waves into the auditory canal. So basically, the outer part, this pinna, this ear of yours, its whole function it is to trap some sound waves. Whenever I make a sound, or whenever someone speaks, that's those sound waves, they are trapped by these flap-like structures known as the pinnas. Okay, so they are the ones that are responsible for collecting sound waves from different directions. Let us just say someone is speaking here, there at the top. The sound waves will come through from the top and they will go into the pinna. They will be collected by the pinna. If someone is talking here at the bottom, those sound waves, they will move and they will move and they will move and they'll be collected by this part, which is the pinna. So basically, the pinna is basically a flap-like structure, and its whole purpose or its whole function it is to trap and to direct the sound waves into the auditory canal. So basically, when the sound waves enter this pinna region, they need to go to a tube-like structure or to a pipe-like structure known as the auditory canal. So just to highlight it further, the auditory canal it is just this part here that is stemming from the pinna. Okay, so this part that is stemming from the pinna, it is the one that is receiving the sound waves from the pinna. Okay, but now what is the whole purpose of this auditory canal? So the auditory canal, it is pipe-like. It looks like a pipe or it looks like a tube-like structure. So its whole purpose it is to transmit some sound waves to the tympanic membrane. So the sound waves, number one, they were trapped by the pinna or they were collected by the pinna. Sound waves from different directions or sound was collected from different direction, and that sound, as it was collected from different direction by the pinna, it was directed into the auditory canal. So now as the sound waves are now directed into the auditory canal, the auditory canal will now be able to transmit those sound waves and transmit them all the way to another part known as the tympanic membrane. So there are certain things that are very important and significant about the auditory canal. The auditory canal does not only transmit, it doesn't only transmit sound waves to the tympanic membrane, but basically when we look at its suitability, its structure, it is structurally suitable because it has got some hairs. So it has got some hairs, like literally hairs, right? So it has got some hairs. So basically, whenever you touch your ear right now, if you take maybe a pen or you poke your ear using something and you keep on moving that pen or that finger inside the ear, you are going to feel some hairs. So basically, your ear has got some hair, some smaller hairs, smaller hairs. Okay, it's just gonna be smaller hairs. It's not like the same hair as the one that is found in your head. No. Otherwise, each and everyone would be like having hair from the ear and stuff like that. But basically, inside the auditory canal, we have got small hairs. Usually, I don't know, they call it cilia, right? They call it cilia. So we have got small hairs or smaller hairs. What are these smaller hairs for inside your ear? The smaller hairs, they prevent foreign objects from entering into the ear. Remember, guys, the ear is supposed to be able to hear sound. The ear is supposed to be able to collect some sound waves, right? Not any other thing. That is why if you try to put something into the ear, these auditory, these hairs that are found in the auditory canal, they are the one that prevent those foreign objects from entering into the ear. For example, if it happens that there's dust in the area or any other particle or any other small thing that might not be desirable that would enter the ear, there's these hairs that are found on the auditory canal. They just push it back because the hairs kind of produce some friction. So even if there is sand or anything that you try to put here in the ear, it will just bump off here due to these hairs that are known as cilia. So we can just say the auditory canal, it consists of what? It consists of hairs. And those hairs, they prevent foreign objects. They prevent undesirable objects, or they prevent the objects that are not supposed to enter from entering. So those objects that are not supposed to enter into the ear, they are immediately blocked or eventually blocked by this auditory canal. Are we still together, grade 12?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So now that your sound waves have been transmitted, we say that they will be transmitted to a part known as the tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane, it is a part that you're going to just find here. So we've got a tympanic membrane. It's just a part that we're going to find here. But now we're going to explain the tympanic membrane in the middle ear, okay? But we just treat it as part of the outer ear as well, okay? So one more thing, before we go to the tympanic membrane, in the auditory canal, there is earwax as well. So there is earwax that prevents the ear from drying out. So basically, you guys need to know that the ear need to be hydrated, or the ear needs to have some fluid inside it. So basically, the auditory canal, it has got some earwax. The earwax, it is like a wax-like structure. It looks like if I wouldn't say it's a fluid, it's a wax. Okay, it's a wax, just like the candle wax, right? So it is the one that whenever you are cleaning your ears using earbuds, or whenever you are using your pen to clear your ears, because you guys are school kids, I know that you like using your pens to clean your ears. That thing that is brown, that brown wax that comes from your ear, the ear wax, all right, it is there for a purpose. It is not just there to make your ear dirty, because you guys treat it like it's dirt. All right, you guys will be like, no, 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 no. Let me remove this thing. My ears are full of this. Guys, yes, you may remove it, but don't say it's dirt. Although it looks brown and it smells bad and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it serves a purpose to prevent the ear from drying out. So the auditory canal, it contains earwax to prevent drying out. It has got hairs to prevent foreign objects, and its main function, it is to transmit some sound waves to the tympanic membrane. Now, here's how to answer your questions, grade 12. Whenever they ask you, how is the auditory canal adapted? Or you can say, how is the ear adapted? Or how is the ear protected? Let's just say, how is the ear protected? You're going to say that it has got hairs. That is the first mark. It has got hairs. And then those hairs, they prevent foreign objects from entering. It contains earwax. That's one mark. To do what? To prevent the ear from drying out. There are many ways of asking these questions, Gretov. They can ask you, Uti, give the structural suitability. Whenever you hear the term structural suitability, or whenever you hear the term structural adaptations, or the adaptations of the ear, whenever you hear the term adaptations, you can say that in the auditory canal of the ear, there is some hairs that prevent foreign objects from entering the ear. You are explaining what is found in the ear. In this case, what is found in the auditory canal, and then you are giving its function. It contains earwax. Earwax is found in the auditory canal, but what is its function? To prevent the ear from drying out. So all of these are important adaptations, or you can say those are the important features that are making up the structure of the auditory canal. All right. So now let's go to the middle ear. So now this portion is the middle ear. Please observe carefully, grade 12, where we are coming from. This is the outer ear. When I say next to my animation, we are going into the middle ear. So the middle ear is just a small portion, right? The middle ear, we say that actually we're already done with the outer ear, because we say that the outer ear, its main function, it is to just let the sound waves to enter into it. We've already explained, Anshusi, the sound waves are entering. They are being collected by the pinna, and then the pinna is trapping those sound waves and directing them to where? Directing them into the auditory canal. Then the auditory canal is transmitting them to the tympanic membrane. So the main purpose of the outer ear, it is to allow some sound waves to be able to enter. And those three parts, they work hand in hand to allow that to happen. So now, when we now go to the middle ear, I've already given you a hint, guys. In my hint box, I said after the sound waves have entered, we must have some vibrations in the middle ear. That is why I said sound waves must enter the outer ear, causing vibrations in the middle ear. So now the portion that we are doing, it is the portion for what? For vibrations now. This is the portion that we are doing for vibrations, which is the middle ear. So now what are these vibrations that we're talking about? Remember, grade 12s, I told you about the tympanic membrane and I said we're going to explain what it does. So the tympanic membrane, it is just found here, and it is the one that is kind of separating the outer ear and the middle ear. Because remember that the outer ear, since it was collecting the sound waves, those sound waves, they will now arrive at the tympanic membrane. Those sound waves are coming from the outer ear and they will arrive where? At the tympanic membrane of the ear. So we have got an organ known as the tympanic membrane. The nickname for this organ, they can say that this is an eardrum. They can say that this is an eardrum, but this is a non-life sciences term. Don't call it the eardrum. Call it the tympanic membrane. All right. What is the tympanic membrane doing in the first place? The tympanic membrane, it does what? It vibrates due to the sound waves from the auditory canal. Remember, guys, the auditory canal is extending just from here. So the auditory canal is extending just from here. And we say that its main purpose is to transmit the sound waves from the pinna all the way to the tympanic membrane. So basically, the tympanic membrane is receiving the sound waves that are coming from the auditory canal. All right. So the tympanic membrane is receiving sound waves, and those sound waves are coming from the auditory canal. Now, when the sound waves get to the tympanic membrane, what do? They cause the tympanic membrane to vibrate. So whenever, remember, guys, I told you that the sound waves are causing vibrations. This is the vibration that I'm talking about. So basically, when the sound waves are coming all the way from the auditory canal, because this part is coming from the auditory canal, or this is your auditory canal from the outer ear. So now basically, when the sound waves are now coming from the auditory canal and they reach the tympanic membrane, they cause the tympanic membrane to vibrate. That is the most important part. So the tympanic membrane, it vibrates. And what causes it to vibrate? It is the what? The sound waves that are coming from the auditory canal. So basically, a tympanic membrane is a structure that is flexible. It is a structure that is flexible. You guys must have once felt what a tympanic membrane is, because most of the times when you are poking your ear or when you are removing the earwax from your ear, maybe you are removing the dirt from your ear, you will feel that if you keep on going deeper and deeper, you will reach a part that is a bit painful to keep on removing the dirt from. All right. Like if you take your pen right now and then you attempt to clean your ear using a pen, the moment you put the pen inside the ear, it will go deeper into the ear and deeper and deeper, and you will reach a point where you will stop putting in your pen. That is the tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane, it is a very fragile part, and what does it do? It vibrates. Vibration, you guys know what vibration is. That vibration, it kind of moves or it oscillates or it vibrates. It vibrates due to the sound waves that are entering, that are coming from the auditory canal. And then now, the tympanic membrane will then now transmit these vibrations. Now we're having vibrations. These are no longer sound waves, guys. It was sound waves when they were coming from the outside. For example, when I'm talking right now, the sound waves are entering your outer ear. The pinna is collecting sound waves. But the moment the sound waves reaches the tympanic membrane, grade 12, the moment the sound waves the moment they reach the tympanic membrane will start vibrating. It will start moving. Zzz. You see that type of vibration, like real vibration. So it starts nyagazing, starts moving, starts vibrating due to the sound waves. And then now these vibrating or these vibrations, they are now being transmitted into the middle ear. All right. But now we need to know, how do we mean when we say that the vibrations are being transmitted into the middle ear, right? That is when we introduce three magic bones inside the middle ear known as the ossicles. So basically, the ossicles is just a collective name for three bones that are found inside the middle ear. So this is your middle ear right now. And then we have got the first bone. This is a very big bone that looks like, kind of like a hammer. So this is a bone that looks like a what? That looks like a hammer. And then we have got another bone that looks like an anvil. So we have got another bone that looks like an anvil. I don't know if you guys know what an anvil is. I'm sure you guys know what a hammer is, like the hammer that you use to hammer some I don't know, some nails, when you're doing EP, not the nails that the girls put on their hands. No, like whenever you are trying to hammer some nails, maybe on the wall or something like that. But those are what, that's a hammer, right? It looks like a hammer, the first bone, and then the next one, it looks like an anvil. You guys can go and Google what tool is an anvil. And then the last one looks like a stirrup. This one, it looks like a stirrup, right? So these three bones in total, they are known as the what? The ossicles. They are collectively known as the ossicles. So this ossicles is more like a collective name. So whenever they ask you questions during the biological terms, usually they will say the name, okay, the collective name for the three bones that are found in the middle ear. Those are known as the ossicles. So those are very small, guys, because they are actually fitting inside your ear, and you cannot be able to see them, cannot be able to feel them right now, unless if you go to maybe a CTI scan or something like that. But those ossicles, what do they do? So the main function of the ossicles, it is to amplify the vibrations. Okay, so the main function of the ossicles is to amplify the vibrations. What does the term amplify mean? Amplify simply means that making something to be bigger, all right? So basically, the sound waves that are entering into the ear, they are smaller, right? They are not that much, they are not too much. But now, when the tympanic membrane starts vibrating, those vibrations will be transmitted into the middle ear. How do I mean it practically? Hey, let's observe carefully here, great hosts, with understanding, right? So imagine, guys, that these two things, they are tied together, or they are connected to one another. So this bone here, this first ossicle is connected to the tympanic membrane, right? And then this last ossicle is connected to this dot nyana here, known as the oval window. We're still going to talk about it. So these bones are connected to the tympanic membrane and the oval window, respectively, right? So imagine this, grade 12. Let us say that this thing starts vibrating. This tympanic membrane starts vibrating. It starts making some vibrations. Like, you guys know what vibration is. Just like your heartbeat. Your heartbeat is kind of an example of a vibration. All right. So let's just say now this blue structure, or this tympanic membrane, it starts vibrating. What would you expect to happen to these ones? These ones that are these bones that are attached to this structure that is vibrating. What do you expect to happen to them? That is vibrating. What do you expect to happen to them?
They will also vibrate.
Yes, they also vibrate. Exactly, guys. That's common sense.
also vibrate. Exactly.
Yes, that's common sense, guys. So it's common sense for the mere fact that obviously these two things are attached together, guys. Like, imagine that these two bones are together. The tympanic membrane, it is attached to the what? It is attached to the first ossicle. Okay, it is attached to the first ossicle, because this is your tympanic membrane here. All right, this is your tympanic membrane. It is attached to the first ossicle. And then this first ossicle, or this first bone, this one that I've highlighted in blue, the one that looks like a hammer, it is connected to the next one. Okay, it is connected to the next one, because you can see that these two are connected here. All right, it is connected to the next one. And then the third one is connected to the second one as well. So these bones, these ossicles, they are connected. They are connected like contact connection. They are connected like they're in contact with one another. So the moment the tympanic membrane starts vibrating, so when this tympanic membrane here, it starts nyagazing, it starts vibrating and vibrating. Obviously, these ossicles, these three bones, they will also vibrate. That is what we mean when we say that the tympanic membrane, it transfers or it transmits some vibrations into the middle ear. That is the meaning of it. Don't overthink it, grade 12. It is simple, common sense. What is the common sense here? The tympanic membrane is attached to the what? It is attached to the bones. The first bone, which is the one of the ossicles. All right, these ossicles, this first bone of the ossicles. So the moment this structure or the moment this tympanic membrane will start moving, it is very obvious that this one will also move. And then the second one will also move. The third one as well will also move. So basically, the vibration started at the tympanic membrane, right? The vibration started here at the tympanic membrane due to the sound waves. When the sound waves were hitting the tympanic membrane, that is when the tympanic membrane started creating some vibrations. That is when the tympanic membrane started vibrating, right? So now, since the tympanic membrane has started vibrating, it will not only vibrate alone because it is connected to the bones in the middle ear. It is connected to the ossicles, which are those three tiny bones that are following each other. So basically, this vibration that is happening at the tympanic membrane will not only affect the tympanic membrane alone, but they will do what? They will also be transferred to the bones in the middle ear. That is why we say that the tympanic membrane, it does what? It actually transmits vibrations into the middle ear. Are we clear, grade 12 for that?
Sir.
Yes. Okay. So now another thing, the ossicles, guys, these bones, what do they do? Okay, we say that they amplify the vibrations, right, from the tympanic membrane. So basically, those vibrations that are entering, or the vibrations that are happening at the tympanic membrane, they are not so much big. But these ossicles, they actually do what? They actually make them to become bigger and bigger and bigger so that you can be able to hear sound and perceive them as human. But basically, the vibrations are amplified, or the vibrations, they come up with greater intensity, something like that. But basically, the vibrations become more and more with the ossicles. And then those vibrations will now be transmitted into the what? Into the inner ear, because we're still gonna have an inner ear. The inner ear will be the one that will transmit the vibrations. And the ossicles, these bones, these three bones, they will now transmit the what? They will now transmit the vibrations into the inner ear. Are we still clear together? Are we still together, grade 12?
Yes.
All right. So your ossicles, there are three of them. The first one is known as the hammer. Okay, this is a nickname, Jali. Let me just write the scientific name. So the first one is known as the malleus. It looks like a hammer. Malleus. All right, the malleus. So the malleus has got a nickname of a hammer. The malleus is a nickname of a hammer. I'm sure you guys already know what a hammer is. I'm sure you guys are old now. A hammer is simply a hammer. Let's just keep it simple. A hammer is just a hammer. All right. So the hammer is known as the malleus. We call it the malleus. Scientifically, we call it the malleus. But because most of the times we look at the shape of things and we kind of make our own nicknames, we can call it the hammer at some point. Okay? We can call it the hammer at some point. Do you get the sense, Kritov?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. And then after the malleus, we go to the second bone, this one that I've highlighted in red, because the hammer, it is the one that I showed at first, the one with the blue. Then the red highlighted one, it is now known as the what? It is now known as the incus. So we call it the what? The incus. So the second ossicle is known as the incus. So the incus is the one that is highlighted in red for my diagram here, this one. So the other name, we can call it an anvil because it looks like an anvil. It looks like an anvil. You guys will Google what tool is an anvil, but it is one of the tools that is used in construction and I think carpentry or something. But basically, the incus is known as an anvil. And then we have got the last one, which is the smallest one. This one that is highlighted in blue as well. It is the smallest one. It's known as the stapes. It's known as the stapes, but it is nicknamed as the stirrup. So these are the names that you guys might need to know. The other one is the stirrup. So the smallest one, it is the stapes, right? The malleus or the hammer, it is attached at the tympanic membrane, as I've already explained. And then it vibrates. When it vibrates, it obviously, when the tympanic membrane vibrates, then the malleus will also vibrate, or the first bone of the ossicles will also vibrate. And when the first bone is vibrating, the second bone will as well. And when the second bone is doing that, then the third bone will do as well. The third bone, the third ossicle. Okay. So now we have got also another part known as the Eustachian tube. So in the middle ear, this part also forms a part of the middle ear, is known as the Eustachian tube, the one that I'm highlighting right now. It's a Eustachian tube. All right. So what is the whole purpose of having this Eustachian tube? So the Eustachian tube, it is there to equalize pressure. So its main function, it is to equalize pressure on both sides, or you can say that on either sides of the tympanic membrane. So basically, guys, the tympanic membrane, it needs to have a pressure balance because I told you guys that the tympanic membrane, it is very fragile. It is very weak. It's not like a bone, that thing. It's not a bone. Even if you put a pen inside your ear, you will feel that the tympanic membrane is so sensitive such that you end up removing your pen from the ear. So pressure must be balanced on both sides of the tympanic membrane, meaning that the pressure on the outer ear, or the pressure that is coming from the sound waves from the auditory canal, this pressure that is coming from the auditory canal must be equal to the pressure that is found here in the middle ear. So it must be equal to the pressure found on the what? On the middle ear. So the pressure that is happening here at the ossicles and the pressure that is happening here outside the ossicles, or maybe on the other side of the tympanic membrane, the pressure, they must be equal. Okay, so that your ears will not burst. Otherwise, if the pressure is not equal, you have a risk of your ear bursting. The tympanic membrane is very sensitive. Okay, the tympanic membrane is very sensitive. So there must be a certain amount of pressure that is equal on both sides of it. On both sides. Basically on this side, which is the outer ear, and on this side, which is the inner ear. Because the tympanic membrane is kind of separating the middle ear and the outer ear, right? So basically, the pressure of the sound waves on each side must be equal. And then now we need to understand as well, how do these ossicles amplify vibrations? We are going to do that furthermore when we come back from our 10-minute break.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
I was still explaining to you that the main function of the ossicles, it is to amplify the vibrations, or it is to make vibrations to become bigger. The vibrations from where? The vibrations from the tympanic membrane. Because remember, guys, I've already explained you to the tympanic membrane, it will start vibrating. And those vibrations will be transmitted, or they will be transferred to the ossicles, those three bones, the malleus, the incus, as well as the stapes, right? And then now, after transmitting those vibrations will now be amplified, or they will now be more concentrated, okay? Or maybe the sound will now be bigger, all right? Because basically the sound waves, they are small when they are entering the auditory canal. They are very small, but now they need to be big so that a person can be able to hear them. That is why as humans, we cannot be able to hear some of the sound or some of the frequencies. We're not able to hear them. To those people who are doing physics, they do understand me when I say, Tina, as humans, we're not able to hear all forms of sound, all right? So basically, to be able to vibrate or to be able to amplify the vibrations, how do the ossicles increase the vibrations coming from the tympanic membrane? I'm going to make a simple analogy, grade 12, a simple analogy explaining to you basically how this thing of amplification works, all right? So basically, if you want something to be amplified, in this case, if you want your thing to be amplified, oh wait, what I penned here. Okay, but basically, if you want your waves, okay, if you want your vibrations to be amplified, let's just say, for example, you've got a pipe of water, right? You've got a pipe of water, and it's a very huge pipe of water. And then now, you now connect it to a very small pipe. Let me just use a different color. And so you connect this pipe of water to a smaller pipe of water. Right there. Cool drawing skills. All right. So I connect a bigger pipe of water with a smaller pipe of water. I just want to make an example for you guys to understand this better. Right. So let me just say that there is water that is entering here on the bigger part. So let's just say that we have got water that is entering on the bigger part of on the bigger part of the pipe. And then now the pipe will suddenly become smaller here. Or you can say that your pipe is now connected to a smaller object, right? Or is connected to a narrower object. If it happens, when the water is moving in the bigger pipe, or when the water is entering the bigger pipe, it is moving slowly. Do you expect the water that is coming out to move fast or slow? Let's just say there is water that is entering into the bigger pipe here, and then later on, it will now be forced to enter into a smaller pipe. What do you think will happen to the water as it exits the smaller pipe? Is it going to be moving faster, or is it going to be moving slowly?
Faster.
Yes, it moves faster, guys, because now the place is now constricted. Yes, guys, it's now constricted, not slow. If you try this out, guys, go ahead and take something, take a bigger pipe, connect it to a smaller pipe. If water is moving from the bigger pipe to the smaller pipe, when the water is exiting or when the water is flowing out of the smaller pipe, it will now be way much faster compared to the way the water was when it was entering. All right. This is because here we started with a bigger opening. This one is what? Is a bigger opening. We started with a bigger opening. And then you ended up with a smaller exit, or you can say a smaller opening as well. It's fine. So basically you can see that here your water was entering into a bigger opening or a bigger pipe, but now the water was leaving, or it was flowing out of a smaller opening. So this has caused the water to now move faster. This is the same mechanism, the 12s, that is being used by the ossicles to make to amplify the vibrations from the tympanic membrane, or to make the vibrations from the tympanic membrane to be bigger. All right. How does that happen? Basically, the vibrations must enter a large tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane, we say that it is large. So basically, when the vibrations are entering here, or maybe when the sound waves, when the tympanic membrane starts to vibrate, the tympanic membrane is a very big, okay, it is not really that much big, but it is very big, right? So they must enter a large tympanic membrane, or you can say that vibrations are created at a large tympanic membrane. And then how do the vibrations exit, or how do the vibrations leave the middle ear? So now the vibrations leave the middle ear on this dot here. So we've got a dot here known as the oval window. So we've got a dot here. Let me just paint it in blue. So we've a dot known as the oval window. We have a dot known as the oval window. So let me just compare. Right, okay, let's just, before we compare anything, grade 12s, first of all, remember guys, the vibrations, they start here at the tympanic membrane. The vibrations, they start here at the tympanic membrane, causing the malleus to shift, to move, the incus to move, as well as the stapes to also move, right? So basically, we can say that the vibrations are created here at the tympanic membrane, but the vibrations will leave here at the oval window. All right, those are the two main parts that are making up our that are making up this whole system. So vibrations are created at a larger organ compared to the organ where they will live. For example, the oval window there in the ear, the oval window, grade 12s, it is small because I even highlighted for you. It just looks like a dot, this thing. Okay, it just looks like a dot, all right? That this one that is highlighted in blue, this one is your oval window. This one is your oval window. All right. So the oval window, it is smaller compared to the tympanic membrane. But Tina, we say that the tympanic membrane, that is where the vibrations are created, right? So vibrations are created at a bigger tympanic membrane, but now the vibrations, they leave at a what? At a smaller oval window, because the oval window is smaller. So vibrations enter here, and then now they leave here. So obviously amplification will happen there, because I told you guys that when something enters in a bigger area and leaves in a smaller area, it's going to be amplified, or it's going to be more bigger. Just like the water example that I gave you, when water flows into a bigger part of the pipe and lives in a smaller part, it will leave as more concentrated, or you can say it will leave as more powerful. Something like that. All right. So basically, this is what happens. So when you explain when you finish up the explanation of this amplification thing, we say that those vibrations, they exit through a small oval window. Guys, look at the keywords that I'm trying to emphasize here. The vibrations are being made at a large tympanic membrane. Please use the term large. Don't just say it's a tympanic membrane. No, because we are trying to emphasize the size difference here, that we are having a bigger opening on one end and we're having a smaller opening on the other end. All right. So basically, the vibrations are entering a large tympanic membrane. They're not just entering a tympanic membrane, but a large tympanic membrane. All right. And then the vibrations are leaving, or they're exiting through a small oval window. So it is necessary for you to mention large, small. So large tympanic membrane, small oval window. And then because there is a size difference, because basically the tympanic membrane, it is large, but the oval window, it is just looking like a dot, something like this. So basically the distance, this is how it looks like, right? So basically, when the vibrations are being created at a larger area and they are going to a smaller area, they will be amplified, or you can say that they will be more concentrated. Hence, we'll say that the sound has been amplified. So basically, this is how vibrations are amplified. They enter in a smaller area and they live in a bigger area. And then now the sound will now be amplified, or the sound will now be bigger compared to just entering into the ear. Are you together, Kratos?
Yes, sir.
All right. So for that one, I don't know, someone was asking the question here, saying the tympanic membrane is the same thing as the tympanum. Yes. So the tympanum, it is just another name for the tympanic membrane. Tympanum is just another name for a what? For a tympanic membrane. It's not that much thick. It's not that much thick. All right. Cool. Let's now go into the inner ear, which is the last part of our lesson today. The inner ear will now stem from the oval window. You see that, guys, we are doing this in a correct order with the way it works. All right. Remember, we moved from the outer ear. We went into the middle ear. Now we are going to the inner ear. Remember, guys, the oval window, I've already told you about the oval window. The oval window, it is just small. It's just a small anyana dot here that is found here as a kind of a boundary between the middle ear and the outer ear. Because basically the inner ear is this one. All right. This is the inner ear. And then this one is the middle ear. So we've got an inner ear and a middle ear. The oval window, I've already told you about the oval window, just in the outer, in the middle ear, to say just we've got an oval window, which is the one that is receiving the vibrations from the ossicles, right? Now, the oval window, its main function, it is to transmit some vibrations from the middle ear into the inner ear. So now, basically, this is the inner ear, Kratos. This part here, it is actually showing us the main part of the inner ear. So those vibrations, remember, guys, the vibrations, they are coming from the ossicles. They started with the tympanic membrane. They moved to the ossicles. And then the last ossicle, or the last bone of the ossicles, which is the stapes, the last bone of the ossicle, it is connected to the oval window. Here it is. I think you can see it clearly here. So basically, the last bone here, which is the stapes, or this last bone known as the stirrup, which is directly connected to the oval window. So basically, we can simply say that the vibrations are transferred from this last ossicle to the oval window. All right. So that is the main function. Or we can just say in simple terms that the main function here of our cochlea was to our ossicles was to do that. Now the oval window will now take these vibrations and it will take them into the inner ear. So basically, it transfers vibrations from the middle ear to the inner ear. And then now we have got a cochlea. So basically, the cochlea is full of fluid. All right. There is a lot of fluid here. It is fluid filled. Fluid filled. So the fluid found in the cochlea is known as endolymph. So it's just a fluid known as endolymph. Don't worry too much about the fluid composition and whatnot. Just know that we have got some fluid inside the cochlea. This organ known as the cochlea. So it is filled with some fluid. And what happens at the cochlea or at these fluids? Pressure waves are created there. All right. Pressure waves are created at the cochlea. Right. So how are pressure waves created? Or maybe basically what are pressure waves? Guys, we say that this cochlea, it has got some fluid inside it. A fluid, guys, is just a liquid usually. Usually its form is a liquid. So for this one, there is actually a liquid that is filling in this entire space inside the cochlea. So inside the cochlea, this entire space, it is filled with some fluid known as endolymph. And you guys already know that fluid actually moves. Okay, if you take a liquid, for example, a liquid, it is just easy to move, right? So basically, what actually happens here, the moment the vibrations are reaching here at the oval window, when we're having vibrations here from the middle ear at the oval window, those vibrations, they cause this fluid to be like shaking and shaking and shaking, all right? So as they cause the fluid to be shaking and shaking and shaking, basically, we create these things known as pressure waves. So basically, the pressure waves are created at the cochlea, right? So the pressure waves are created at the cochlea, And one other thing that you need to remember, we need to introduce this thing of the organ of Corti. So basically the cochlea, it consists of the organ of Corti. So there is an organ known as the organ of Corti. So the organ of Corti, what does it do? It converts some sound stimulus into an impulse, right? So it converts the sound stimulus into an impulse. So it is the one that is acting as a resistor in the it converts sound stimulus into an impulse alone, right? So it's acting as a receptor, not a resistor, right? So basically the organ of Corti, it acts as a what? As a receptor. Remember, guys, I told you what does a receptor do. A receptor, it takes in a stimulus, converts it into a nerve impulse. Then that nerve impulse will now be sent to the sensory neuron, which will now go at some point to the central nervous system. Be it goes to the brain or it goes to the spinal cord, it will now depend on that type of impulse. So basically, the organ of Corti, for the E, the organ of Corti is our receptor. So basically, the organ of Corti is our what? Is our receptor, because it is the one that detects what you know. There are now pressure waves inside the inner ear. Remember, guys, the pressure waves are coming from the vibrations, right? So basically, we can just make a flow diagram and say, Uti, when we begin this lesson, we begin with sound waves. We begin with sound waves that were entering the outer ear, all right? And then now, those sound waves entered the outer ear such that we created some vibrations in the middle ear. So vibrations were created in the middle ear. And then those vibrations, they will now be transferred to the oval window, such that the vibrations will be transferred into the inner ear. But those vibrations, they will cause what we call pressure waves. So those will cause pressure waves, right? Pressure waves. So basically, pressure waves are created in the inner ear. So basically, there are pressure waves here, not vibrations. Okay, vibrations were found in the middle ear when the ossicles were vibrating, right? But basically, in the inner ear, we've got an organ of Corti now, which will now detect the stimulus, all right? Detect the stimulus, convert it into a what? Into a nerve impulse. So your organ of Corti is just an organ found there, which is acting as a what? As a receptor. Why do we need to convert it into an impulse? Because I told you guys, the brain, the cerebrum of the brain, it is the one that is operating, okay? The cerebrum of the brain, it is the one that is operating. It is the one that is resulting in you being able to hear the sound that is coming from my mouth or from your laptop or from wherever. So basically, it is very, very, very important for these stimulus, for this sound stimulus to be converted into a nerve impulse. That nerve impulse, we already know that it will now travel all the way to the cerebrum, and the cerebrum will perceive it as sound, right? The cerebrum will perceive it as sound, but basically it starts as a sound wave. It goes and becomes a vibration, then becomes a pressure waves. Now, the pressure waves, they are the ones that are being detected as a sound stimulus. And then the organ of Corti will convert that into a nerve impulse. And what will it do? It will send them to an auditory nerve. But before we get there, let's just talk about this round window. So basically in the ear there, you can see that we talked about the oval window. The oval window is the one that is found here on top, the one that is connected to the one of the ossicle bones, whereby the round window, it is just found here at the bottom, is not connected to any one of the ossicle bones. It's just found here at the bottom, is known as a round window. So what is the whole purpose of having a round window in this whole entire thing? So the round window is responsible for absorbing excess pressure waves. So basically, since we say that the pressure waves are being created inside the cochlea, okay, if pressure waves are being created inside the cochlea, the round window is enough to be able to absorb those pressure waves, right? So those pressure waves, they need to be absorbed, or they need to be at a normal level, right? So basically the round window, that will be just the round window, that is the one that will be doing what? That will be absorbing the pressure waves, the excess pressure waves. When you say that they're excess pressure waves, too much pressure waves, so this actually prevents echoing, or it prevents an echo. Why do we say that? Does anyone guys know of an echo? Whenever we say that echo, the term echo.
Yeah, sir. We know. I know.
What is it? What is an echo? What is an echo there?
It's like a repetition of a sound. One.
Is a
Yeah,
repetition
like
of a sound. Yes.
I can't explain it, but yeah, it's like a repetition.
Yeah, something like that. You are in the right directions. The
Yeah.
repetition of a sound that is coming back to you. For example, if you shout and say "way," and then you hear your voice coming back to you, it's an echo, that one. And an echo is basically caused by an echo is caused if we have got too much pressure waves inside the inner ear. So the round window will now reduce the pressure waves inside the inner ear by absorbing them. Hence, a person will not be able to prevent an echo, or a person will not be able to hear an echo. Instead, a person will be able to hear one thing, not hearing like two voices at the same time. All right. So now, when the pressure waves have now been converted into an impulse, because we say that the organ of Corti, it is the receptor converting these pressure waves into a nerve impulse. Now the pressure waves are no longer just pressure waves, they are now a nerve impulse. The nerve impulse will now need to be transmitted by the auditory nerve all the way to the cerebrum for interpretation. So basically we've got this part here known as an auditory nerve. So the auditory nerve, do not confuse it with the auditory canal, grade 12s. I told you about the auditory canal when we began the session. I said that the auditory canal is just going to be the one that is allowing some sound waves to enter and collect them and gives it to the tympanic membrane. That is the auditory canal. But the one that is taking in the nerve impulses, right? The one that is taking in the nerve impulses all the way, taking them to the cerebrum. That is the what? That is the auditory nerve. Use the term nerve. You guys already told you about nerve and their nerve cells. So basically here, the auditory nerve, it is the one that is responsible for now transporting or transmitting these nerve impulses all the way to the cerebrum. Why should the nerve impulses go to the cerebrum? So that you can be able to hear or to be able to interpret as sound. Because basically, if the auditory nerve is not there, even if sound is entering through your ear, you will only find out that no man, you cannot be able to hear. Why are you not able to hear? Sometimes the auditory nerve might be having a problem. Maybe is not being able to transmit the waves or anything, but basically the auditory nerve's function is to transmit those pressure waves all the way to the brain, to the cerebrum. Are we clear, grade 12? Are we good? I was saying the auditory nerve, it is the one that will now take the nerve impulses. And should we say that at the cochlea, guys, the organ of Corti is found inside the cochlea, right? There's an organ of Corti inside the cochlea that is doing what? That is converting sound stimulus into a nerve impulse. Now, those nerve impulses, they will now be sent, or they will now be transmitted via the auditory nerve all the way to where? All the way to the cerebrum, because the cerebrum, it is the one that is able to perceive, or the one that is able to interpret different senses such as sound and light. All right. So basically, the auditory nerve, It is the one that is receiving those nerve impulses from the organ of Corti and then sending them to the cerebrum. The cerebrum will now make the interpretation with no, this is sound, this is that, this is this, and that. Are we clear, great souls, now?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yes. So guys, what we just did right now is the basic function of the eye. That's the basic functioning of the eye, because we already covered 3 sections. All right. First one, the sound waves were able to enter the outer ear, and then vibrations were created in the middle ear, and then pressure waves were created in the what? In the inner ear. And then those pressure waves were converted into a nerve impulse, and then the nerve impulse was sent to via the auditory nerve. Was sent via the auditory nerve to the cerebrum of the brain. Now you are able to hear. I will still hear the Mr. One there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, so that's the basic functioning of the ear, guys. I'll give you quite a couple of activities. You guys will need to look at other things here as well on your own. It's very important. Yeah, but for today, may we please end here. But this one is a very short topic, and I assume if we can just have a session on Sunday, just a small session, just maybe maybe even 1 hour, 30 minutes, we'll be able to finish up, or maybe 2 hours. But for today, I think this is enough to processing the functioning of the ear. I did the session so that I can cover up for tomorrow, because I will not be here. I will be on a business trip. Yes, Pila, Kobutela.
What makes you unable to hear?
Oh, okay, the damage
Yes,
part. There are many parts that can be damaged that will cause you to not be able to hear. Let's just say, for example, the organ of Corti is damaged. Let's just say the organ of Corti inside the cochlea, it is damaged. If the organ of Corti is damaged, it simply means that the sound stimulus or the pressure waves, they will not be able to be converted into an impulse. And if there is no impulse, obviously, there is nothing that will go to the cerebrum for interpretation. Because basically the organ of Corti, it is serving a purpose. It is to convert the pressure waves to what? To be an impulse. That's an example of one part that will be damaged. If it happens that the auditory nerve is damaged, we say that the auditory nerve, it does what? It transmits the nerve impulses from the cochlea all the way to the cerebrum. So if the auditory nerve is damaged, that's even worse, because the nerve impulses are not able to go to the cerebrum. So basically, a person cannot be able to perceive sound, because the cerebrum is the one that perceives autonoman. There is a sound out there. But if the nerve impulses from the ears are not even able to get to the cerebrum, now the cerebrum has nothing to interpret. Now that will cause someone to not hear. That's one other thing. If it happens that the ossicles are the ones that are damaged, maybe the ossicles are not vibrating, basically, the vibrations will be stuck in the middle ear. They won't be able to be transmitted. All of those guys, you just need to look for one organ. If they just ask a general question, you just look for one organ that can be damaged, that will make a person not to hear. But those are just quite a couple of examples. Are you clear there? Whoever asked me.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any other questions, grade 12?